Hello, welcome to this video. My name is Guillaume. I've been an expat living in Vietnam for 3 years now. And in this video, I'm gonna tell you what's the best bank for expats living in Vietnam. So if you wish to come and move to Vietnam to find a job, do volunteering, or just spend a couple of months, then I really recommend you to watch this video until the end because I'm gonna give you the best setup fitting your profile. So if you are a foreigner coming to Vietnam for work, I will provide you the perfect setup. If you just want to stay a little bit of months here, you also have a different setup. And finally, if you are an entrepreneur, you will also see the most tailored solution that may fit your need. So I have my laptop here. Let's jump in. Number one, I'm going to tell you what I'm calling the foreigner headache. And I want to give you an overall situation from the past and what is happening right now. After, I'm going to give you some hints about some concepts that you may not have heard, but are very important if you want to find a good bank in Vietnam and that will last for the long run. And finally, as I introduce you, I'm going to give you the perfect setup if you are a long-term tourist, an employee, or an entrepreneur coming to Vietnam for a couple of months or years. Okay, so let's jump into it. As a foreigner, what I'm calling the foreigner headache. Basically, before we could open a bank account under the tourist visa. Right now, everything is a little bit more complicated because of new restrictions. As a foreigner, if basically you don't have a proper situation in Vietnam, if you don't have a work permit or a card that can help you to stay here a couple of months, like a residency card, you won't be able to do cash deposit because the government want to track all the income from foreigners. So if you go to a bank and want to deposit your cash, you won't be able to do it except if you have a proper legal situation with, for instance, a work permit. You won't also be able to receive wires from other Vietnamese or foreigner friends living in Vietnam to your bank account. So my advice, according to your situation, would be if you want to come here for a couple of months, try to be in a good standing regarding to the government, so everything will be smooth for the bank. Now, as I introduce you, I want to talk a little bit about different concepts that you may not have heard. Number one is, what about the currency, the Vietnamese dong versus the USD? As you may see, I'm going to show right now, you see the devaluation. Why is that? The government is printing money as it is devaluating the currency to be able to be competitive in the global economy. That's why Vietnam is so emerging and attract foreign investments. But what does it mean as well? It means that if you are a foreigner right now and if you open an account in Vietnam dong, you may see the value of your money inside reducing month after month. That's why I would recommend you, if you want to open an account, pay also attention to have a USD account, not only a VND account. Second thing that you may have seen as well, if you take your motorbike around cities like Saigon, Hanoi, Da Nang, you may have seen advertisement from local banks telling you that they can get you 8% to 9% per year of interest if you deposit your saving in their bank. But there is something hidden. Do you see the link with the previous thing I just said? They will pay you in Vietnam dong. So if you save and if you deposit $10,000, $20,000, you may have this interest, but it's going to be paid in Vietnam dong. But on the other side, if the currency is devaluating the value, finally you won't get the real 8%. You will have something way less. That's why you need to pay attention into this. And if, as a foreigner, you want to have a saving plan, I would not only recommend you to pay attention into this, but also to see like offshore saving accounts that may also provide you those interests, but in other currencies that are stronger than Vietnam dong. Another point I want to highlight, it may interest people who are very libertarian. Nowadays in Vietnam, the bank signed the FATCA. FATCA basically that's the exchange, the electronic exchange that the US are asking all the different entities related to banking all over the world to give them the information of their users. But nowadays, Vietnam still didn't sign the CRS, which is the common reporting standard that what is implemented in Europe. So as for instance, a French person, a Belgian, a UK person, if you bank right now in Vietnam, you will have a little bit of privacy regarding to your personal information. The government in Europe won't know that you open an account in Vietnam. But wait, I'm not telling you to put money and hide your money in Vietnam. I'm gonna now come to the 4th point. In Vietnam, right now, the bank will only guarantee you 75 million if there is any crisis. So if tomorrow they are not able to refund you the money because there is a big global crisis, they will just pay you back 75 million. So if you put 10, 20,000 US dollar in your bank, they won't give you that. So with the current rate, 75 million worth 3.5k approximately. So yeah, be aware that don't bank in Vietnam if you want to do saving. If you want to do it, but at least you are aware about the potential risk and also compare this to other alternatives, right? Another point I want to highlight to you is what about sending money overseas? If you are an expat and if you receive salary in Vietnam, one day, if you plan to live here for 1 year or 2 years, one time you will have to send money overseas. Maybe you want to do foreign investments. Maybe you have a long-term vision and you want to start to send money to a pension fund or to invest money on the stock market, but not in Vietnam, but overseas, let's say in the US or in Europe, then you will have this problem of sending money overseas. We come back to the first point. You need to be in good standing regarding to Vietnam government and your personal tax situation. If you get a salary in Vietnam, if tax have been paid on your salary, you won't have any problem to send money overseas. But on the other side, if you just are right now receiving a salary but nothing is declared, you didn't pay any tax, then you may be in trouble and you won't be able to send money overseas. Banks will ask you a proof of income and a proof of tax that has been paid. If you don't have those papers, you won't be able to do that. And again, it's not something only for foreigners. Even as a Vietnamese, you cannot send money overseas like that. They have also rules for the Vietnamese. If a Vietnamese person wants to send money overseas, they need to have a certain purpose. For instance, they have child that are studying in the US, then they will be able to support them and send money to them. If they have also a member of their family who is sick overseas, they will be able to support them. But beside those real good reasons, they cannot send money overseas to an offshore bank account. What's the reason? It's just because Vietnamese government is protecting their own currency. That's the same everywhere. If you check in Thailand, in Laos, that's the same. Those countries are protecting their currency. That's why they have those strict rules. Now, I guess you have an overall picture or you learn a little bit about different concepts. Let's finally come to the point. I'm going to tell you, according to your situation, what's the best account for you. Number one, if you are a long-term tourist, so if you plan to stay in Vietnam, but you won't work, you will just spend a couple of months, maybe you are retired, maybe you travel overseas around, but you want to still have a banking solution in Vietnam to reduce cost, then you can go to a normal local bank. You can go to, for instance, Vietcombank or Sacombank. Go there and tell them directly your situation. The situation may change in the next months. That's why I just tell you an overall idea. Sometimes some banks will ask you to sign a paper that you don't receive any money from a company in Vietnam. So in other words, you don't work in Vietnam. You are just here as a tourist. Some bank can still provide you their solution. It will be cheap. You can have a bank with one of those cards and you can go to any ATM and you can cash out from the ATM. Then, if you are an employee, for this situation, you can still use those banks. That's what I'm using personally. So the same, Vietcombank and Sacombank. Then where you go, when you open your account, you can give them your work permit and your work certificate. According to this, they will flag you as you are an expat working in Vietnam. So you won't have any problem from getting money to your bank, paying your bills, everything will be very smooth. Number 3, if you are an entrepreneur, you may have different needs that just normal tourists and expats don't have. For instance, sending money overseas, having a better customer support. Then for your case, I would recommend you to go to international banks. You have international banks that have offices in Vietnam. You can open an account over there and they will be more customer friendly for you. Then for your case, I would recommend you Standard Chartered, Citibank or Shinhan. You have very good customer reviews from expats who are entrepreneurs, so they also on the personal side want to have those kind of banks that are more friendly for their situation. Finally, one last point, many expats ask how can they transfer money from overseas to Vietnam. Nowadays, you have solutions like TransferWise. That's an online solution that will cut all the costs the traditional bank were taking before. So you can send the money from Europe or from the US to Vietnam and you will save hundreds of dollars. You can find a link below if that's right now something you are facing on, but to give you an overall picture, that's what every millennials are using now to transfer money from overseas to Vietnam. And for your first transfer, you won't pay anything. It will be zero cost. Take a look in the description. I mentioned all the links so you can go through directly and simulate your first international transfer. And one last thing, in this fintech industry, you have banks like N26 and Revolut that are European banks, but helping you to open an account smoothly, and you will save a lot of cost when you go to the ATM. So this solution can also fit long-term tourists who are traveling in Southeast Asia and want to save hundreds of dollars during their trip. Thanks guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. You can find in the description the different links and resources I share for you so you can go right to the point. Thanks again for watching and I see you in the next video.